Hi students, welcome to lesson number 14, Environmental Degradation. Now let us start with the introduction. The environment in which we live plays a vital role in our survival. The environment includes all the natural resources such as air, water, land, forest and the minerals, etc. It is our duty to protect the natural resources. However, due to some of the reasons, there is a lot of misuse of these natural resources in the form of land degradation, water pollution, air pollution and deforestation. All these factors lead to deterioration of our environment. Environmental degradation is the disintegration or deterioration of the environment through the nature's consumption of assets like air, water and soil. The destruction of environment and the eradication of the whole world life takes place. The objectives of the lesson are to know the meaning of environmental degradation, to study the causes of environmental degradation, to study the various measures to protect environmental degradation and to examine the policies protecting environment. Now let us know the meaning of environmental degradation. Environmental degradation is the process by which our environment, that is the air, water and land, is progressively contaminated, overexploited and destroyed. It is characterized as any change or aggravation to nature's turf seen to be perilous or undesirable. Environmental degradation is the process by which our environment, the air, water and land, is progressively seen to be perilous or undesirable. Environmental degradation is created by the consolidation of an effectively substantial and expanding human populace. Constantly expanding monetary development or per capita fortune and the application of asset exhausting and polluting technology is actually done in the environmental degradation. It occurs when Earth's natural resources are depleted and environment is compromised in the form of extinction of species, pollution in air, water and soil and rapid growth in population. When the environment becomes less valuable or damaged, environment degradation is said to be occur. In specific environmental degradation, the deterioration of the environment through depletion of resources such as air, water and soil and forest, the destruction of ecosystems and extinction of wildlife, and the environmental degradation is one of the largest threats that are being looked at in the world today. There have been many efforts made in order to reclaim the environment by the people through organizations. The United Nations International Strategy for Disaster Reduction characterizes environmental degradation as the lessening of the limit of the earth to meet social and environmental destinations and the needs. Environmental degradation can happen in a number of ways. At the point when environments are wrecked or common assets are exhausted, the environment is considered to be corrupted and harmed. There are a number of various techniques that are being used to prevent this. The environmental resource protection and general protection efforts are being done. There are instances where people have revoked and adopted non-violence action movements for protecting their environment. What are the factors causing environmental degradation? The factors are like environmental issues can be seen by the ecological effects, some of which can demolish whole environments. An environment is a unique unit and incorporates all the living and non-living components that live inside it. 1. Area specific. Some environmental life species which require substantial areas to help provide food, living space and other different assets, and these creatures are called area specific. At the point when the biome is divided, the vast patches of the living space do not exist anymore. It gets to be more troublesome for the wildlife to get the assets they need in order to survive. The environment goes on even though the animals and the plant life are not there to help sustain it properly. Land disturbance. A basic cause of environmental degradation is land damage. Numerous weedy plant species like garlic mustard are both foreign and obtrusive. A rupture in the environmental surroundings provides for them a chance to start growing and spreading. These plants can assume control over nature, eliminating the local greenery. The result is territory with a solitary predominant plant which does not give satisfactory food assets to all the environmental life. Whole environments can be destroyed because of these invasive species. The pollution, which is whatever in the form, whether it is air, water, land or noise, is harmful for the environment. Air pollution pollutes the air that we breathe, which causes health issues, and water pollution degrades the quality of water that we use for drinking purposes. Land pollution results in degradation of Earth's surface as a result of human activities. Noise pollution can cause irreparable damage to our ears when exposed to continuous large sounds like honking of vehicles on a busy road, the machines producing large noise in a factory or a mill. Overpopulation, where there is the rapid growth in population growth, puts strain on natural resources which results in degradation of our environment. Mortality rate has come down due to better medical facilities which have resulted in increased lifespan. More population simply means more demand for food or clothing and shelter. We need more space to grow food and provide home to millions of people. This results in deforestation, which is another factor of environmental degradation. Population is an important source of development, yet it is a major source of environmental degradation when it exceeds the threshold limits of the support systems. Population impacts on the environment primarily through the use of natural resources and production of waste, and is associated with environmental stresses like loss of biodiversity, air and water pollution, and increased pressure on arable land. In view of the linkages between population and environment, a vigorous drive for population control need be overemphasized. Though population is the resource of any country and a major contributory factor for development, yet it is a major cause of environmental degradation. The rapid pace of population leads to excessive utilization of natural resources, huge production of waste, and which results in biodiversity, pollution of air, water and soil, increased pressures on the arable land. All these have been a great stress on the environment. Another cause is the landfills, which pollutes the environment and destroy the beauty of the cities. Landfills comes within the city due to the large amount of waste that gets generated by households, industries, factories and hospitals. Landfills pose a great risk to the health of the environment and the people who live there. Landfills produce foul smell when burned and cause huge environmental degradation. Deforestation is also another cause, where deforestation as like cutting down of trees to make way for more homes and industries, and the rapid growth in population and urban sprawl are two of the major causes of deforestation. Apart from that, use of forest land for agriculture, animal grazing harvest for fuel, the wood and logging is some of the other causes of deforestation. Deforestation contributes to global warming as decreased forest size puts carbon black into the environment. The natural causes. Natural causes like earthquakes, avalanches, tidal waves, storms and wildfires can crush nearby animal and plant groups by which they can no longer survive in those areas. This can either come to fruition through physical demolition as the result of a specific disaster, or by the long term degradation of assets by the presentation of an obtrusive foreign species to the environment. The latter happens after tidal waves, when reptiles and bugs are washed ashore. Earth itself causes ecological issues. A biological system degrades to the point where they can't help the life that is supposed to live there. Urbanization is another cause. Urbanization, like ecological stresses, are leading to an increasing movement of people from rural areas to the towns. Cities are emerging and urban slums are expanding. The rapid and unplanned expansion of cities has resulted in degradation of urban environment. It has widened the gap between demand and supply of infrastructural services such as energy, housing, transport, communication, education, water supply and sewerage and recreational amenities. Thus, depleting the precious environmental resource of the cities is occurring. The result is the growing trend in deterioration of air and water quality, generation of waste, the proliferation of slums and undesirable land use changes. Poverty is said to be both the cause and effect of environmental degradation. Inequality fosters unsustainability because the poor who rely on natural resources more than the rich deplete the natural resources faster, as they have no real prospects of gaining access to other types of resources. The economic factors. To some extent, environmental degradation is the result of market failure, that is, the non-existence or poorly functioning markets for environmental goods and services. Environmental degradation is a particular case of consumption or production externalities reflected by divergence between private and social cost. Lack of well-defined property rights may be one of the reasons for such market failure. Market distortions created by rice control and subsidies may aggravate the achievement of environmental objectives. The levels and the pattern of economic development also affect the nature of environmental problems. The manufacturing technology adopted by most of the industries has placed a heavy load in environment, especially through intensive resource and energy use, as is evident in natural resource depletion like fossil fuel, minerals, timber, water, air and land contamination, health hazards and degradation of natural ecosystems. There is high proportion of fossil fuels as the main source of industrial energy and major air polluting industries such as iron and steel fertilizers and cement growing, and the industrial sources contributed to air pollution. The industrial and hazardous waste brought about by expansion of chemical based industry have compounded the waste management problem with serious environmental health implications. Transport activities have wider effects on the environment like air pollution, noise from road traffic and oil spills from marine shipping, and transport infrastructure in India has expanded in terms of network and services. Thus, road transport accounts for a major share of air pollution load in cities. Port and harbour projects impact on sensitive coastal ecosystems. Their construction affects hydrology, surface water quality, fisheries, coral reefs and mangroves to varying degrees. The direct impacts of agricultural development on the environment arise from farming activities which contribute to soil erosion, land salination and loss of nutrients. The spread of green revolution has been accompanied by over exploitation of land and water resources, and use of fertilizers and pesticides got increased. Intensive agriculture and irrigation contributed to land degradation such as salination, alkalization and water logging. Institutional factors. Rapid industrialization has been the important contributor to environmental degradation. Most of the industries adopt the technologies that place a heavy load on the environment. These technologies lead to intensive use of resources and energy. Industrialization is resulting in depletion of natural resources like fossil fuel, minerals and contamination of water, air and land. All these are causing immense damage to ecosystems and leading to health hazards. Other causes like deforestation, mining activities, automobiles, industrial effluents, generation of waste, dumping of hazardous radioactive waste, construction of larger dams and reservoirs, all these have a great impact on the environment. Changing the lifestyle has been a remarkable change in the lifestyle of living of people. The changing lifestyle of people has increased a serious damage to environment in many ways. The use of modern gadgets like refrigerators, air conditioners, which release the harmful gases in the atmosphere. This has been causing global warming. The Ministry of Environment and Forest (MOEF) in the government is responsible for protection, the conservation and development of environment. The ministry works in collaboration with other ministries and the state governments which have the pollution control boards and a number of scientific and technical institutions. Universities and the non-governmental organizations etc., where the Environment Protection Act 1986 is the key legislation which is the governing the environment management. Other legislations are the Forest Conservation Act 1980 and the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. The state government institutions are relatively small, although overall quality of environmental impact assessment EIA studies and the effective implementation of the EIA process have improved over the years. The effects of environmental degradation. Now, let us know what are the effects. The impact of human health is at receiving end and as a result of the environmental degradation. Areas exposed to the toxic air pollutants can cause respiratory problems like pneumonia and asthma. Many people die due to indirect effects of air pollution. There is the loss of biodiversity, where it is another effect of biodiversity is important, which is for maintaining the balance of the ecosystems in the form of combating pollution or restoring the nutrients, protecting water sources and stabilizing the climate, and also the deforestation, the global warming, overpopulation and pollution are few of the major causes of the loss of biodiversity. Ozone layer depletion, which is the responsible for protecting earth from harmful ultraviolet rays. The presence of chlorofluorocarbons, hydrochlorofluorocarbons in the atmosphere is causing the ozone layer of deplete. In the process of depletion, it will emit harmful radiations back to earth. There is loss of tourism industry. The deterioration of environment can be a huge loss for tourism industry that rely on tourists for their daily livelihood. Environmental damage like loss of green cover, loss of biodiversity, increased air and water pollution can be a turn off for most of the tourists. The economic impact: in order to restore green cover, cleaning up landfills and protection of endangered species, the countries have to bear big economic impact. The global warming. Global warming is a problem of too much carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which acts as a blanket, trapping heat and warming the planet. When we burn fossil fuels like coal, oil and natural gas for energy, or cut down and burn forests to create the pastures and plantations, carbon accumulates and overloads our atmosphere. The agricultural practices and waste management aggravate the problem by releasing their potent global warming gases such as methane and nitrous oxide. The carbon dioxide survives in the atmosphere for a long time, for centuries, so its heat trapping effects are compounded over time. The heat trapping gases, carbon dioxide, puts us at the risk of irreversible changes, and if it continues to accumulate unabated in the atmosphere, the scientific evidence indicates that an increase in the global average temperature of more than 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit above pre-industrial levels poses severe risk to natural systems and human beings. There is the global average temperature, which has increased by more than 1 Fahrenheit in 2001 and 2010. Decade was the warmest since 1880. This warming has been accompanied by a decrease in very cold days and nights and an increase in extremely hot days and warm nights. A warming world also has potential to change rainfall and snow patterns. Increased droughts and severe storms reduce the lake ice covers, melt glaciers, increase sea level and change plant and animal behavior. The global average temperature has increased by more than 1 Fahrenheit, and this was in 2001 and 2010. Now, let us look into the policies of government to protect environment. The National Council for Environmental Planning and Policy was set up in 1972, which was later evolved as Ministry of Environment and Forest in 1985. Indian 5-year plans have focused on rapid economic growth, employment generation, poverty alleviation and balanced regional development. The importance of sustainable development is also being stressed as an objective of public policy. Broadly, when we look into the policies, the environmental policies in India fall in 4 periods. The pre-independence period 1853 to 1947, where the Shore Nuisance Bombay and Colaba Act 1853, the Elephants Preservation Act 1879, the Fisheries Act 1897, the Factories Act 1897, the Bengal Smoke Nuisance Act 1905, the Bombay Smoke Nuisance Act 1912, Wild Birds and Animals Protection Act 1912, Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974. This act paved the way for the creation of Central Pollution Control Board (CPCB) and State Pollution Control Boards (SPCBs) in order to promote cleanliness of streams and wells in different areas of the states. Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. This act defines air pollutant as any solid, liquid or gaseous substance including noise present in the atmosphere in such concentration as may be or tend to be injurious to human beings or other living creatures or plants or property or environment. The CPCB and the SPCBs created under the Water Act 1974 are entrusted with the implementation of the provisions of the Act. The Forest Conservation Act 1980 This act prevents deforestation, which results in ecological imbalance and environmental deterioration. The act prohibits even the state governments and any other authority to deserve a forest which is already reserved. It prohibits forest land to be used for non-forest purposes except with the prior approval of the central government. The Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984 had a deep impact in the minds of policy makers to deliver comprehensive environmental legislation in 1986. 1. Environment Protection Act 1986 EPA. The Environment Protection Act 1986 extends to the whole of India and it came into force on November 19, 1986. After the enactment of Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974 and Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981, it was decided that there should be a general legislation for environmental protection as well as for coordinating the various activities which is going to bring the regulatory agencies. Need was also felt to create authority to adequate power for environment protection. Regulation of discharge, handling of hazardous substances, speedy response to accidents threatening environment and deterrent punishment to those who endanger human environment, safety and health. The Motor Vehicles Act 1988, there is the National Environmental Appellate Authority Act 1997, another one is the National Environmental Tribunal Act 1995, the new economic policy initiated in 1991 led constitutional amendments in 1994 to facilitate decentralization of powers and resources to control the environmental degradation. To sum up the lesson, what we have learnt in the lesson is that environmental degradation is the disintegration or deterioration of the environment through the nature's consumption of assets like air, water and soil, the destruction of environment and eradication of wildlife. Due to various causes, world countries are facing environmental degradation, which is where we are talking about the sustainable development is the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. We are able to focus on sustainable development, which is promoting the idea that social, environmental and economic progress is all attainable within the limits of the nature.